Studying up on early modern English taught me how an old letter and a printing press made us start mispronouncing a Scottish name. In my search for the true sound of Shakespeare, long hours at the library paid off, with way too many amazing subplots to squeeze into one video. Before I tuck them into my notebook and turn out the lights, let me share one story I really loved, about a different kind of English. Thanks to a long linguistic past, there are more varieties of English in the British Isles than in the rest of the English-speaking world. At the extremes, these actually behave like different languages. We meet one of those extremes in the far north, Scots. Not Gaelic, not Standard English with a trilly Scottish burr, Scots. It's the local lowlands way of saying Scottish. Just as their word Inglis evolved to Ingles, Scotis shortened to Scots. Consider your company carefully before you weigh in on calling it a lead or a dialect. It's a bit of a charged issue. But either way, Scots has its own separate history. The northern edges of Middle English gained a strong foothold in the Lowlands, pushing Scottish Gaelic to the Highlands. The Scots Lead emerged and evolved into its own sub-branch of Anglic, complete with Scots dialects and even a literary form with quirks of its own. Quirks, like yoch. This early English letter was a form of G used for a few sounds, including the glide y and ye, and the raspy sound at the end of its own name, yoch. This letter didn't last down south. Caxton's printing press would print ye and you like this. But when Scotland got its printing press, yoch was still alive in ye, you, and in the name Mackenzie. Mackenzie? Aye! See, back then, printing involved wooden sticks, metal pieces, forms, two people to ink and press. It was a whole process. These weren't the days of holding down a key on your phone until you got a little pop-up to choose the right special character. Type was literally metal pieces stored in a type case. So you'd print with the type you had on hand and you would keep around just enough to print. That spelled the beginning of the end for yoch. The story goes that when the presses in Scotland didn't have the type, the metal piece for yoch in their wooden type cases, they just grabbed the letter Z instead. Close enough, right? Especially since their handwritten forms looked so similar at the time. It's not that confusing either. After all, whether you call this letter Z or Izid, modern Scots still doesn't use it much for the sound Z. But some words became so well known in print that eventually people based their pronunciation on that printed spelling, reading a Z sound back into a word that never had it in the first place. This shortcut didn't impact Fingen or Dromellier, nor the earlier spelling of the Isle of Yell. But it is how Mackenzie turned into Mackenzie. This quirk is a great example of how language varieties can preserve little bits of history, even events as specific as hauling a printing press into town and picking letters out of a box. Alright, enough follow-up. I'll get back to work on the next full tale, the one you patrons voted for. Consider becoming a patron yourself if you want to help me spend more time making videos. I deeply appreciate it. Most importantly, stick around and subscribe for Lead.